And the big beautiful bill becoming the big beautiful law.
Live from News Nation headquarters, this is News Nation Prime.
And for more, we're bringing in our panel tonight. We have Republican strategist Matt Klink and Madeline Somerville, Democratic strategist and former speechwriter for Georgia's Senate Democratic Caucus. Welcome both. Appreciate you being here. Matt, I do want to start with you. Passage of the big, beautiful bill, a major victory for President Trump. What does this mean for the remainder of his second term? How does he build on this momentum?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Natasha. Look, it was huge. I mean, it was a great day yesterday, not only the 249th birthday of America, but also to sign this legislation into law. It encapsulates Trump's economic policy and a whole bunch of other policies that he campaigned on in November of 2024. And look, now the Republicans, they have to go out to the country and sell it. There's been a lot of misinformation put out there by the mainstream media and the Democrats. And the Republicans should campaign on this, and they should campaign on it enthusiastically, because it is a great bill that's going to be like rocket fuel for the economy.
Madeline, I want to get you in here. What do you think? Misinformation on the parts of the Democrats. I mean, this is a deeply consequential defeat for Democrats, both policy-wise and politically. How does the party regroup, and what is their messaging going to be going into the midterms?
I think the fault of the Democrats in the messaging here is, rather than framing it as the facts, right, putting down the different statistics, I think what they should do is put down how it's going to make people feel, or the emotional implications of what this bill does, right, because it's sneaky. Two points here. So, for example, when they talk about the cuts to Medicaid, the messaging from the Republicans has been only the folks who deserve to be kicked off of Medicaid will. But that's simply not true. People who are going to meet the requirements under the new work requirement position here, let's see, I think in the most recent study, it was 49% of folks who are on Medicaid who will meet that will still get kicked off simply because of administrative hurdles, because they checked a box wrong. They've been studying this since 1996, and that's a common hurdle for them. And then with the point that your colleague made about the growth, right? In order to make up the debt and the deficit that Scott Bessent, the secretary, has said, in order to make that up overall over time, for this to actually be a good bill, GDP growth would have to be plus 3% for the next 4 years. And that's literally never happened in the history of the United States of America, in modern history. So misinformation on the other side, I think, is a major problem. But I think the Democrats need to frame it in terms of emotional framing in order to get people to listen.
Matt, what do you think? What about Republicans? How are they going to use this bill's passage in the midterms to maintain their majorities?
Well, look, I mean, that's great advice in terms of people do vote based on emotion. I strongly agree with that, and I concur. I mean, look, the facts are the facts, though, on this is that this bill, it slows the rate of the debt still goes up, and we are still spending too much, but it slows the rate of that growth. The irony about, only in Washington is a spending increase that's lower than the CBO projections is a cut. We're still going to spend $1 trillion on social welfare programs over the next decade, but it's not as much as the CBO says, and that's a cut. The bottom line is that Joe Biden and the Democrats, they instituted a system of European social welfare programs where people who weren't needy were getting benefits.
Madeline, we're almost out of time, but I have to get you in here. You're shaking your head.
You're killing me. So when it comes to the CBO, the validity of the CBO, there's a Republican senator that actually introduced two resolutions last year in support of what the CBO does. So the CBO, Scott Bessent said, it wasn't going to account for the amazing growth that President Trump was going to create with giving these tax cuts to people at the top, right? Because they're going off of the Laffer curve, the trickle-down economics. But the CBO actually did factor that in and literally gave them every benefit of the doubt in making this assessment. And it still is going to hurt the lowest income Americans. So again, this is a failure of messaging on the part of the Democrats. They need to frame it in that they've been betrayed by the Republicans. These are good people people who listened and trusted the person that they thought was going to take care of them. And we need to change the messaging to reach them.
All right, Madeline Somerville and Matt Klink, appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.